how to bounce back when you hit rock bottom. Let's be honest, it can happen to anyone. We need to know, how do we bounce back? Janine, I'm going to start with you, if that is okay. So Janine is from Momentum. Janine also has her own side hustles, like many other people on this panel. And I think that is amazing. In this economy, one job is not enough to pay for petrol, electricity, car,
living expenses.
There are so many things. Now, Janine, like I said, I would love to start with you. Today's topic, bouncing back.
Yes.
Why is it that some people are able to bounce back and other people aren't? What are some people doing that some aren't? I look at people in my life.
Yes.
There are people who have been struggling for 10 years. Something traumatic happened, a death or a divorce. 10 years ago, they're still struggling. So how do we bounce back?
Sherlyn, thank you for the question. I think the important bit is the recovery part. So whether we're going through a trauma, whether we are breaking 2 legs and needing to recover from that, whether there's an event that has set us back so bad financially, the bit about recovery is the key. And when you want to recover, you own your story. You own the fact that you need to go on a journey of healing, of getting better, and of rehabbing, right? So we go into rehab when we have broken ankles. We go into therapy when we're needing mental or emotional support for that very trauma.
You're saying we need rehab, we need therapy for our finances.
So we need financial therapy, we need financial coaching. And then it's about the financial capabilities, analyzing, assessing, looking yourself in the mirror and going, what financial capabilities do I possess? And how am I able to unlock that? Having an honest conversation with myself and saying, I actually need to adopt some tools to get better at this and improve my capabilities and set a destination path with the end in mind and saying, well, what steps needs to be taken in between? And then there's this thing about financial literacy. So if we're not financially literate, we will stay illiterate, right? Similarly to reading, similarly to learning to walk. And so financial literacy speaks of the ability to be mindful about money, speaks of the ability to understand the economy, how money works, this wonderful thing called compound interest, debt, savings, budgeting. Yes, it's a swear word in many households, but how to analyze that budget. The fact that savings should be in a budget. And yes, when you hit rock bottom, your savings, your insurance are the first things to go. And of course, the bit about when you find your financial voice. When you find that voice, us women are unstoppable. There's a concept called financially knowledgeable persons, FKP, not another swear word. And it speaks of us as women who are less financially capable than our male counterparts. So we have work to do. The gender pay gap, 23 to 35% difference in pay when we find our financial
Paul, how does
voices.
that make you feel? Sorry, Janine.
Well, Paul, there's pressure now, right? So when we find that voice, we can tackle that pay gap. 42% of households are headed up by women. Mostly single moms, single women. And so, we then feel guilty because we have to invest in ourselves. So we give others and we give the households first. And so getting rid of that guilt. So maybe we are shameful because of the rock bottom that we've hit. Not having conversations, not knowing that when the spouse passes away, there's a problem because there's not enough money, because perhaps that spouse was the breadwinner. The difficulty, the cultural expectations, the familial expectations. And so rock bottom need not stay rock bottom. And that's the message today. The right tools, the right people in the journey, take on the journey, face it, and with that strategic tools and steps, you can recover financially.
Now, Janine, I'm going to ask you another follow-up. You're talking about the financial voice. And with you on this panel, strong, very vocal women, but some women whisper when it comes to finances. So how do we practice this financial voice? How do we become louder, prouder, more confident? And then after Janine, if you two would also just answer, I would love to hear your thoughts too.
So there's an acronym called SMART, SMART, and it speaks about being specific with the goals. So just like we set shoe goals, wardrobe goals, physical goals, spiritual goals, family goals, vehicle goals, so financial goals should also be set, right? And so the journey is one that we need to face head on. And most importantly, it's about getting those tools to journey with you, getting the right advice. Oftentimes, people think, well, advice comes at a cost. But actually, Karen, you said it so beautifully, not getting the advice, not taking on the coaching, not going to the therapist is worse in the end.
So Karen, I'm going to throw it to you. How are you investing in yourself? And was it always easy? Or were you at a point, am I worthy? Is it going to be worth it?
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for the question. And with my journey as an entrepreneur and as a single mom, I think that we speak or we share the highlights of entrepreneurship, we share the highlights of motherhood, but we aren't as transparent of the pitfalls or the challenges that actually come about when you are in those positions. So I love the points that Janine shared so much because that's what I've experienced in my life. I was on an amazing trajectory as, a founder. I started a digital publication and an agency. And about 2 years in, I fell pregnant. I got really sick, so much so that it led to a domino effect where I had to retrench all of my staff.
Sure.
I went through all of my savings, and my understanding of financial wellness at the time was just that it was savings and a budget. I wasn't conscious of anything beyond that, and I wasn't conscious of my relationship with finances beyond that. So a few months down the line, depleted my savings, and I had to move back home. I retrenched my team. I had to move back home. I had 200 rand left. Took a bus back to Polokwane.
How many?
And I gave birth 2 weeks before COVID, and that started my recovery journey of how do you then balance being a new mom, being a first-time mom, navigating a global pandemic and trying to recover a business. But I think it really made me assess my relationship with money and really made me consider all the points Janine is saying, we're not conscious about how we interact with money and stuff. And I think, that was the beginning of my relationship and to where I am now.
I can't believe that at some point you had 200 rand and here you are sitting today. I think many people are there today. Do you have some words to inspire them? How many people are saying, yes, momentum, you're telling us to go for it again, but I've been knocked down so many times.
Absolutely. I think the one thing first is just understanding what our relationship with success is. It's not a straightforward journey. For some people it is, but it's really nuanced, and each journey is very, very different.
True.
So I needed to understand or assess how I evaluated the notion of failure. It wasn't failure. I could have stopped there, but because I still persevered and became really intentional and conscious with what are my goals, where am I now, how do I hold myself accountable going forward, and what legacy do I want to have for my son, what financial habits do I want to pass down to him. So I think number one, just letting go of the shame, we aren't transparent, so I needed to let go of that. I needed to really assess what my relationship is with finance and with failure, what my goals were, and how do I hold myself accountable going forward. I think as an entrepreneur, you sold on passion and drive, and it's really romanticized, but I needed to really, and I was winging it. I honestly think I was winging it before, so I needed to go into, what is planning, what do my investments look like, what are my contingency plans, and what Janine says, you have a doctor, you have a therapist, but you don't really consider your relationship with finance and getting help, and that was a big part, asking for help and guidance and advice as well.
And Karen speaks about lived experiences. And we all can sit here and go, we remember when there wasn't money in the household.
Yeah.
We remember what the mood was like. Remember what the patternings, and we picked up some of those behaviors.
Yeah.
And how when we faced money for the first time, what did we do? I have a story to tell. Why do I love shoes like you? Well, I wore my mom's navy nurse's clogs to school in Tennessee.
Special.
So what did I do? I bought shoes. And so we are shaped by these experiences. And at some point, I think it's the honest conversation of what does my journey to financial success look like?
So, Paul, you focus on people's behavior when it comes to money, and now we hear how it's linked to what we've been through, traumas sometimes. How easy or how difficult is it for us to change the way we behave and think about money?
Yeah, I think the first thing you've got to understand it first, right? So I think the world is moving towards the empathy economy. So we're turning away from old things like economics to solve the world's problems, and we're sort of approaching and being much more open to psychology. So things like we've got all these remnants of the Industrial Revolution, the 5-day work week. Do we need that? There are other things that are important, right? There's, it's not just about pay, it's about spending time with my family. There's a lifestyle dividend as well. So the answer to the question is it's psychology has always played a big role in what we do. But we need to understand ourselves first. So what we're very interested in as a business is helping people or giving them the tools to diagnose themselves psychologically. So, I mean, if we go back to the marshmallow experiments, right? So remember those kids who, got marshmallow on the table, your only job is wait, right? Just wait.
Don't eat the marshmallow.
Don't eat the marshmallow. Whatever you do, don't, because you'll have two, right? And when you watch those kids, and actually go and check out the experiments again, because it's hysterical, and you can see pain on that child's face, because like he or she knows, I know I mustn't eat it, but I really want to. I want it now. So there are personality traits that have been subsequently linked to that, which are part of our factory settings, right? So our personality comes from our parents. So if you don't like who you are, say thanks, Mom and Dad. The nature-nurture debate is not a debate anymore. It's overwhelmingly nature, right? We get that stuff from our parents. The environment kind of moderates, but that's what comes to us. So if you have certain personality traits as a child, or you don't, it's important to even start with cognitive behavioral therapy earlier, because that can help you in your financial journey.
Now, Samke, you are an incredible businesswoman and a mom. Did you ever try that test on the kiddies, the marshmallow test?
No, I did not try that marshmallow test.
What do you think? Do you think your babies would wait, or?
I think they would wait, and I think it's quite an important consideration, because I think they would wait because they grew up in a world of an abundance of marshmallows. Now, if you take that same experiment to someone who perhaps was promised a marshmallow or the second marshmallow and never given that second marshmallow, you'd get a very different response, because the lack of trust is there, and they'd rather consume what's there as opposed to a promise that has been broken before. And in fact, if you even, right?
We feel that, we feel it.
And if you take that experiment to someone who's never had marshmallows before, and then you promise them 2, when 1 is good enough, they'll take that one. And so as financial services professionals, we tend to treat people as a homogeneous group, not knowing that what underlies this behavior. Were these people promised marshmallows before and lied to? Therefore, the work starts there before we even start talking saving. Let's talk, have you actually ever been in a position where you have experienced abundance? Are you in a survivalist mentality where just getting through tomorrow is what you're concerned about? How do you tell someone about retirement when they don't know how they're going to make it to the end of the month? So we need to start having very real conversations, meeting people at their point of need, but also acknowledging where they come from.
Well said.
The importance of context and how that makes the world of difference.
100%.
That's, hey, honey.
And yes, we often react out of lack, isn't
Yeah.
it? And so the lack of is really the science behind what you speak of. So how do we not go into lack all the time? How do we assess our worthiness of financial success, of abundance, of financial ease? Do we understand the energy and the contractual relationship that we have with money?
Do you know what I like about this panel? All 4 of you have such fancy titles, which you deserve, but behind those titles are very real human beings who've had very real experiences. Paul, I want to talk about your coffee business. What happened there? And also very brave. You did it just before the pandemic, but then again, you didn't know.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, so I opened up a specialty coffee business 3 weeks before hard lockdown. So that was great. Worked very, very well. The problem, of course, I mean, the leases were signed 6 months before. So, I mean, if I can just explain how it sort of feels to be in hospitality during COVID. I mean, you know, we've all seen the Titanic, or at least we know about that scene where the band plays, but the ship is sinking. I was the band. So, you know where the ship is going, but there's nothing you can do about it. You know, but the thing is, those things, I think, the very important thing to tie it into this discussion is there are very important lessons to learn from that. So the most important lesson I learned is that failure can be a very bad teacher. And failure can be a bad teacher because we often take all the responsibility of that failure onto ourselves. And the problem with that is that it hides risk. You know, in every single failure, there is stuff that we can control, and there's stuff that we can't control. If we take all the responsibility onto ourselves and kind of try and processing that failure is extremely important. And a financial therapist can be so valuable to say, look, Paul, this is your part in this. This is not your part. Leave that at the door. You know, you've got no responsibility there. And that sort of financial therapy can be such a valuable part in your financial planning journey in dealing with things like success and failure, and rebounding.
So where's the coffee shop now?
It is in my lounge, actually. So I have like a Lomazocco coffee machine. I make the best cappuccinos every morning. My wife gets one. First cappuccino goes to my wife. So yeah, the coffee, and I've actually kept the branding and everything. I've made a little coffee bar at home because I want to remember it as well. It was really cool. It was a wild ride, but it was cool. Yeah.
And the learnings,
Yeah.
I mean, failing is never lacquer, but sometimes failures can teach you things that success just never can. You, Samke, are very honest about your personal life. You're going to be on the TV soon, reality TV. Tell me about that.
There is, yes, a reality show I'm on, premiering this Monday, 9 p.m. on SABC1, titled Queens of Mzansi.
Queens of Mzansi. And how honest are you ladies going to be? Is it like reality TV or...
It's very real, and I'll tell you why. I got married at 21, divorced at 29, and ladies, piece of advice, don't wait until your share price has dropped before realizing you need to get out of a bad relationship. And so, as part of using that failure, the failed marriage, and the lessons I learned in there, in creating content and a world I wish had existed before I got married even, and certainly before I got divorced, because I brought in a lot of my childhood hopes and dreams into the marriage.
Absolutely.
And I was hoping that this relationship would fix everything that was missing in my childhood, not realizing that only I can do that, right? I wrote a book, a novel, a financial literacy chicklet, Ring Fence, that basically it contains the content I wish had been shared when I was entering into adulthood, because I thought, I'm from a privileged background, I got a rich man, what could possibly go wrong?
What could go
Honey,
wrong?
395 pages worth of content is what went wrong, okay? And so I just see this reality show, not so much as I hate fame and the cameras, by the way, which is a bit of a contradiction, but I felt so pulled towards it because during lockdown, when there was absolutely no emails coming through with work from Momentum or any other FSP, with consultations, there was nothing except that knock saying, you still don't want to be on this show? And so I thought, okay, God, you have my attention. What is it? And he was like, use this platform to show the reality of the bounce back, the reality of me right now staying with a friend because I don't have a home of my own and I'm using the time and the money to rebuild. And the reality of people seeing you on stage looking pretty, but they don't know the fears or the hopes that you go to bed with. And so that's what I have used this platform for.
Thank you.
Of course, I'll be spicy because, a girl is spicy. But that is why I said yes to this opportunity.
I hope that I never need your book But just in case, I'm so happy you wrote it, my sister.
Read it as insurance. I said to you earlier, we take medical insurance, not planning for cancer. We take out
Totally.
car insurance, not planning for an accident. You better take out divorce insurance, even though you're planning on a happily ever after.
I've got some cash in my bag. Do you have a copy?
I've got a Yoko machine as well, honey. I don't play with my money.
Absolutely. Totally.
Before we wrap up, just some final thoughts that you each want to share, and I just want to thank you all. Final thoughts, final sentence, make it short and sweet.
So there's 5,000 sentences, but do not stop. Let's keep going. Do not exclude yourself financially. Financial literacy, change the trajectory for your offspring. Your children have a different journey now because we talk about it. I was sharing with Karen the journey with my daughter and how I said, save, 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 save. And she was like, okay, save for my RA. First RA at 22 years. And then she got her first tax return and she says, oh, this thing works, Mom. So we change the trajectory through telling our stories and through being vocal, finding that financial voice. Do not stop. Do not stop.
Somewhere out there, there's someone with just 200 Rand in your pocket. What do you say to them?
I think one of the biggest lessons for me is just actually asking for help. When it comes to motherhood or children, we speak about like it takes a village to raise a child. And as an entrepreneur, I feel like what I've learned is that it takes a village to raise an entrepreneur or a business person or a founder or just, a woman as a whole. And I think that's my biggest thing. Ask for help, get your financial advisor, get a therapist, get mentorship, but don't sit in the shame of whatever your situation is.
Paul, will there be another coffee shop?
That's a good question. And the biggest part of that, and I think the biggest lesson for me was, everyone out there, if you're going to start a bit, don't be afraid of risk, but whatever you do, don't blow out. So don't put it all on that business because, you've got to make sure that you can roll the dice again if things don't go your way. If there are things like risk that you cannot control, if something goes against you, like COVID, for example, I can throw the dice again another day. Live another day, basically.
Love that. So that you can try
You
again.
can try again. Yeah.
Samke, how do you know it is time to make your side hustle your permanent hustle?
Well, how you know in my case is that I was matching my salary, but we don't, that there was so much more. I was matching my salary, but I wasn't matching my benefits. So that was a big lesson. And if I were to use one word to just sum up the message I'd like to leave with the audience, both here and virtually, is heal.
Heal.
Your wealth lies on the other side of your healing.
We're ready to heal, people. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
You were incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you.